Tomorrow is ANZAC Day. It's a day where here in Australia we commemorate the service of those who have taken part defending our nation, its interests and its freedoms. We remember the sacrifice that people have paid, in particular those that have made the ultimate sacrifice. This year, at this time, I am reflecting on one of Australia's greatest aviation leaders, and it's likely someone that you have never heard of. Clive Caldwell joined the Air Force in May in 1940. It was through the Empire Air Training Scheme, for those that know about that particular scheme, and he graduated in 1941. He was posted to the RAF, the Royal Air Force, units in the Middle East, and he was flying Hurricanes, Tomahawks and Kitty Hawks. They're different types of aircraft back in the day, and he developed a reputation for being an unusually aggressive but effective fighter pilot. But he didn't start out that way. It took him over 30 different sorties for him to register his first kill, to shoot down another enemy aircraft. You know, shooting down enemy aircraft was no easy task. Both you and it, the enemy aircraft, are traveling at several hundred kilometers an hour. They're trying to fly erratically and trying not to get hit themselves while they are trying to shoot the other person and ensure that they aren't getting shot themselves in the process. Now, initially, Caldwell, he struggled to judge where to aim to hit the moving target. To overcome this deficiency, he developed a particular technique which he called shadow shooting. Now, this approach involved firing short bursts of his guns, shooting at the shadow of aircraft on the ground. And he learned by doing this how to make the necessary adjustments to hit the shadow. And what he was able to do is that in judging the adjustments to hit the shadow, he learned how to judge the adjustments he needed to hit the actual enemy aircraft in the air. Now, this technique not only allowed Caldwell to overcome his deficiencies, to become one of the most technically competent combat pilots Australia's ever seen, but he was able to transfer that to some of the people around him. Now, to become a fighter ace, one needs to shoot down 5 enemy aircraft, and it's not an easy task doing so. Places you in a pretty elite club. Of the roughly 700 Australian fighter pilots that we sent and flew in World War II, only 43 of them gained this ace status. Now, Caldwell, when the war ended, had 28.5 kills. It was an assisted kill in there as well, obviously. That qualified him for ace status 5 times. It made him not only Australia's leading fighter pilot of all time, but also the most successful Allied fighter pilot in the Middle East theatre. All right, and as a result, Caldwell was given the nickname Killer. It was a moniker he disliked, but he went on to accept it and went on to command multiple different squadrons in the Middle East theatre, in Europe, and eventually in the Pacific as well. He was admired not just for his skill in the air, but also his leadership of people on the ground. So I want to just briefly highlight here 3 leadership lessons that we can learn from Caldwell's service. The first is he was able to turn technical mastery into organisational capability. And I think this is a really good sign of a great leader. Caldwell's success began with a dedicated effort to overcome his own deficiencies and develop his own technical mastery. His focus, however, was not limited to his own performance. Once he developed this shadow shooting technique, he shared it with his colleagues and his various different commanders. And it was so successful that all the squadrons across the Middle East were directed to adopt that approach. See, good leaders throughout history have been able to turn their personal weaknesses into strengths. And great leaders have not only been able to help themselves, but help others do the same, to translate that journey into a system of capability development across the organisation that they lead. So my question to you would be, where are the gaps in your personal capability? How can you develop a greater level of technical mastery in your role? And how are you turning your expertise into real capability across your business, across your organisation? The next lesson we can learn from Clive Caldwell is to stay calm and to use your head. Now, I think the hallmark of Caldwell's leadership by everybody that has written about him and spoken about their experience of being led by him was his ability to stay calm under pressure. Now, that is absolutely a quality that is necessary for any fighter pilot. He inspired confidence by leading from the front, being able to perform when it mattered most. And he was known for this saying, always use your head before your guns. Take time to think, to plan, to train before you get into a dogfight. And that's absolutely crucial in order for you to stay calm once you're actually in one. You know, this hallmark is not just one of wartime leadership. You might not be trying to survive combat missions in war, but I'm sure, will be able to make a list of pressures that you face in your organisation at the moment. If you are successful today, you too need to be able to inspire confidence by leading from the front, performing when it matters most, and helping others do the same. So how do you stay calm under pressure? What's your strategy for maintaining composure when you are stressed? And what are the high pressure scenarios do your team need to plan for? And how do they actually face those well? Final lesson that I want to reflect on today from Caldwell's leadership is to always remain adaptable. You know, across the war, Caldwell was flying Hurricanes, then P-40 Tomahawks and Kitty Hawks before moving on to the Mark V Supermarine Spitfire. He flew in the Middle East and the European theatre and eventually into the Pacific theatre. He began as an individual focusing on his own skill and survival and shifted to leading squadrons and then eventually commanding entire wings of multiple different squadrons. Each aircraft, each location, each organisational level required different skills, a different perspective, further learning, and the adaptation and development of expertise. You know, sustained success as a leader requires you to achieve results in a variety of different contexts, a variety of different levels, and with a variety of different people. You'll constantly need to be adapting the way that you approach and lead to the world around you. So what do you need to learn to improve your leadership? You know, where has the world around you changed, and what change has it require from you? Where do you need to adapt your leadership in order to be successful moving forward? Caldwell finished the war with a Distinguished Service Order, a Distinguished Flying Cross with a bar, so he got it awarded it twice, and also awarded the Polish Cross of Valour, making him not only the most successful combat pilot in Australian history, but also the most decorated. So the question is, how come so many of us have never heard of him? You know, I was in the Air Force and I'd still never heard of him. I only found out afterwards reading his biography. Unfortunately, the end of Caldwell's service, it was not as distinguished as the rest of his flying career. Some have marked him as a future Chief of Air Force, but he was involved in what they called the Morotai Mutiny, where he led a protest of senior officers against the perceived misuse of fighter units during the end of the War of the Pacific Theatre. And as a result, he was court-martialed. Now, there may be another lesson here about moral leadership, doing what you believe is right, even if it comes at great personal cost. You know, as we commemorate the sacrifice and service of those who have defended our great nation, I encourage you to reflect on what you can learn from those that have gone before you, and what their example demands of you, and what contribution to the current community you can make today. You know, if you'd like to learn more about the leadership of Clive Caldwell, I recommend the book Killer Caldwell, Australia's Greatest Flying Fighter Pilot by Geoffrey Watson. Until next time, lead well.